one of the exercises I do every morning to help with mobility of my hips is a hip circles, just a couple of them each time. But what you really need to make sure when you're doing a hip circle is you're actually mobilizing the hip joint and not using other parts of your body to get the circle. So it's really common, I see this so much, that when people do a hip circle, they're twisting their pelvis and the rest of their body to get the hip round, to get the leg round. And that's not actually doing anything to the hip joint, that's just moving the pelvis or the back or the shoulders. So you'll never get a mobilization of the hip that way. So what you want to think about is keeping your pelvis, if you find your hip bones, the lumpy bits under your hands, think about them staying pointed forward, and the same with your chest, pointing forward. Imagine you've got a pen on your knee and you're just going to draw a circle with your knee. So it's not a balance exercise, so if you want to hold on to a wall or chair, that's fine. Bring the weight back into your heels so that you can lift your toes off the ground. And then just think about keeping your pelvis forward. Sometimes I even use my other hand to push the pelvis forward, or push it so that it's facing forward, so that I'm aware of what I'm doing. And you'll notice that rather than a big circle like this, you're doing a smaller circle, but you can actually feel the work in the hip joint. And this will help to keep your hips nice and mobile, and to get more movement in your hips, because your hips have got an enormous range of movement, but we tend to only use them in a sitting position and lose so much mobility that way. So make sure you give that a try. Keep the pelvis pointing forwards as you do the hip circle, and even though you might feel like you're only doing a tiny bit of a tiny circle, you know that you're mobilizing your hip joint rather than using your whole body to get the circle.